Online activity by Russia bots, trolls and automated accounts has increased by 4,000% following the Salisbury poisoning and alleged chemical attack in Syria. Government analysis has identified what they call Kremlin-inspired accounts that repeatedly post messages to spread disinformation and distort the truth. For more,
what it is, spreading disinformation and distorting the truth. Since about the end of 2015, right here on this channel, Lift the Veil. That's what we try to do here. This is actually going to be a clip that was brought to my attention. I want to give the shout out first to the Outer Light. It's almost a shame to do this after he's done something similar, but you have to see this. And I have asked this gentleman, this older pensioner from the UK, accused of being a Russian bot, very seriously to his face by the Sky News. Oh, here's Doshi. I'm Nathan Stoltman. I'm your host. This is Doshi. I'm a Russian bot. Since we're here, let me tell you, I do sell these t-shirts that say Russian bot. People love them. You can get those at truthclothing.io. That's the sponsor for the show. He's the producer for the show. Let me show you that website because I do rely on their sponsorship for bringing you this kind of thing. This is it. We have those 3 shirts featured and more to come. Mostly real, Truth Matters, Russian bot. We also have Doshi merchandise, coffee mugs, etc. There are reviews on there. People say how much they love the stuff. Shipping's cheap. It's usually under $3. Fast. And it supports a small business, which is Truth Revolution Clothing. And I offered to send this guy a t-shirt too. She said Russian troll activity is up 4,000%. I wonder how they measure that. 4,000%. I wonder how she would respond to our Pentagon, Dana White, who seems to contradict that information.
The Russian disinformation campaign has already begun. There has been a 2,000% increase in Russian trolls in the last 24 hours. Therefore, we will keep you all abreast of the facts moving forward.
Make sure to get your facts from her and not any Russian bots. Make sure to do that. Very important. Russian bot activity up somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000% as measured by the government. Now, we're going to play this whole video clip from Sky News. This was covered live on television in the UK. Seriously, although it seems to be a parody of a news show after you hear what they say. And like I said, I'm working hard to get this gentleman on my show and to get him a free t-shirt.
Well, let's bring in Sky's defence correspondent, Alistair Bunkle. So just explain to us what the government is alleging here.
Very extensive research they've done with the Atlantic Council, which is a think tank based in Washington. And they've looked into a large number of Twitter accounts that have varying forms of activity, but all with the same theme, and that is a pro-Russian theme. Now, that varies from what you and I would probably classify as a bot, so someone who might be perhaps paid to sit in a troll factory in St. Petersburg and push out a Russian message continually throughout a day, often in a very aggressive and abusive way. That's on one end of the scale. The other end of the scale is individuals who might be far more independent of thought, but use their Twitter account to prolifically support messages that are anti-British government. And so you've got that kind of wide range.
Got it. So if you're going to see this repeated over and over again. Anti-British government, very, very pro-Russian, up 4,000%.
Of Twitter users that in the last couple of weeks with, firstly in Salisbury and events there, and then latterly the debate as to whether or not to strike Syria, there's been a huge increase.
Okay, so I'm going to say, as a Russian bot, the poisoning in Salisbury is fake or done by the UK government. I think there's actually plenty of evidence. If you think critically, if you engage your brain, seems like both the Salisbury attack and most certainly the attack in Syria, the alleged chemical weapons attack caught on camera by the white helmets, were both fake and or staged with the help of the UK government. And although they say there's evidence to the contrary, they have not presented us with any. I just wanted to let you know my point of view in case you haven't seen any of my videos before.
That activity, which has now been identified by the government, and they've named and shamed a couple of these accounts, but just highlighted how this is going on as a Russian tactic.
So they've highlighted what's going on. What are they going to do with that information?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult because you have to preserve free speech.
By highlight, he means make a list. That's what he means by highlight. Make a list of Twitter accounts and names that are associated with the Russian government.
Quite rightly so, and I don't think the British government, and I'm not speaking on their behalf, but I don't think they would ever aim to do anything but that. So some of those individuals have a perfect right to tweet at will and tweet what they want, even if that message disagrees with the British government, even if that message the British government believes contains lies a lot of the time. You cannot just close down that account. You cannot just close down those voices. In terms of what you might describe as Russian bots, so people who are actively under the pay of the Kremlin and working for them and pushing their message, then you can get into the realms of sort of counter-cyber activity, if you like. But essentially what the British government needs to try and do, and it has started to do, although let's remember the Russian government are very, very good at this. What they've tried to do is put out their own narrative, if you like. So make sure that they counter the Russian narrative with their own narrative.
COINTELPRO. Change the narrative. You got to see they have government documents that were leaked out to say that's what they do. They do that in comment sections too. They even do that in live chat if they're engaged with what you're doing. They're really serious. And sometimes they'll just troll you. So what they're accusing others of, they're projecting, because the governments actually troll people to harass them, actually. They also lie. They try to change the narrative. And he's proposing that that's a good thing, that the government needs to change the narrative. They have to put out their own anti-propaganda message, also containing lies and falsehoods, also on Twitter, and make it look like it's from real people. Our governments do that to us.
And you've seen the British government start to do that a lot more. Now, the British government identified 2 Twitter accounts specifically that they claim have been pushing a Russian narrative and spreading lies. One of them I've contacted, and we have him now live. Yes, called Ian.
Yeah, let's bring in Ian now. Thanks very much.
This is amazing. This is where, to me now, they say, oh, well, we have him on the show, so I guess he isn't a Russian bot. So instead, they ask him if he's a Russian bot, the person talking to them right now from the UK. They want to make sure he doesn't realize that he's not a Russian bot. Really, that's it.
Much indeed for joining us today, Ian. So you've been identified by the government in this research as being a Russian bot, are you?
That is a 100% total lie and complete fabrication by the UK government.
Why do you think they've identified you and singled you?
Are you? What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm on camera right now and I'm a human person. Are you?
Now, thanks very much indeed for joining us today, Ian. So you've been identified by the government in this research as being a Russian bot, are you?
That is a 100% total lie and complete fabrication by the UK government.
Why do you think they've identified you and singled you in particular out then, Ian?
They are singling out for attack anyone who calls out the UK government lies on what has been happening recently. They have attacked me specifically because my Twitter account has recently got quite a lot of traction and a lot of impressions, views on it, so that lots of people can see. I mean, the government's lies are very transparent and very easy to see. And anybody who applies a smattering of critical thinking will immediately call out numerous lies, and the government position just completely collapses.
Well, okay, by the way, this guy's great. He nails it. Anyone with a smattering of critical thinking can see the lies. It's totally true. Most people don't have a smattering of critical thinking, unfortunately, because of the mind control world we live in. Zombies without the ability to think critically. It only takes a smattering of it. He's absolutely right. He's so good that they have to interrupt him and talk over him. I'll let him play. It's good theater on its own without much commentary, I think.
You had Major General Jonathan Swan on recently on Sky News, and he started off the conversation with, what possible motive would Assad have to carry out a chemical weapons attack when it was guaranteed that that would bring the wrath of the whole world down on him and give the UK and US governments the pretext to bomb it? He wouldn't do it. He is not the stupidest man in the world. He's survived 7 years of brutal war against terrorists.
Well, if not, who then?
The jihadi terrorists, the Wahhabi Salafists, Jaish al-Islam, who controlled that area, staged the attack. What actually happened in Douma in the attack is that Assad bombed the area as part of his fight to clear out the last of the terrorists. Assad had already recaptured 95% of Ghouta, which was this terrorist stronghold just outside Damascus.
I just want to bring...
He's going to say exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. 10 times better than any newscaster. He's going to give you the whole story, but they won't let him tell the whole story. They have to interrupt that.
I just want to bring in our defence correspondent, Alistair Bunkle, who's with me as well, Ian, to talk to you on this point.
Ian, 2 questions. One of that is, and this is what the British government, one of the reasons they've highlighted your account, is that the argument is that you have consistently and prolifically taken an anti-British standpoint.
No, I have taken pro-British line. That is completely false. What do you mean by Britain?
And you accuse the British government of mistruths.
No.
But they point out that in 2012 you tweeted this.
Please,
I think we can see a tweet that you put up in 2012 that says that you were...
Here we go. Out of 150,000 tweets, they choose one tweet as the nail in the coffin proof that he is a Russian bot. See if you can follow the logic.
Voting for Ron Paul. Okay,
well,
so you say you're going to vote for... I voted for Ron Paul, you said, and then a year later, in 2013, you tweeted this, which says you are now starting to think about moving to America. Okay, I will shortly be moving to America, which meant that in 2012, you could not have voted for Ron Paul. So they question your authenticity when tweeting.
You get it? They question his authenticity because he was untruthful when he said he voted for Ron Paul and he doesn't live in the United States of America. Because of that lie, how can they trust anything he says? Okay, you follow it? Because he lied in one of his 150,000 tweets, basically making a joke that he voted for Ron Paul. On Twitter, they ask him later if he knows his sources, if he knows them personally, if he can verify their information. This is someone who tweets on Twitter. Journalists want to know if he knows personally the people he's retweeting so he can verify that the information is true. This was really on television, so I had to play it for you. Hopefully I'll get him on my show.
You're trying to cut me off. You're trying to prevent me from speaking, aren't you?
No, far away. I was just putting that point to you, but please answer it.
Okay. In 2012, I campaigned online for Ron Paul during the primaries. Vigorously. I've got loads of tweets.
But you said you were voting for him, and the British government say that you were therefore telling lies in 2012. So why should your account be believed now?
And instead of saying I supported Ron Paul in 2012, I said I voted for him. Now, I don't know. I can't remember when I did that one tweet out of the 150,000 that I've done.
Let's just get back to the point about today, though, and the accusations today, Ian. You are denying that you're a Russian bot. You're saying you have absolutely no links with the Kremlin. So the material that you retweet, the government's identified 100 posts a day from your account,
She really
1,300 posts in 12 days.
So, okay, let me summarize. You're saying you're not a Russian bot. Okay, all right. Even though you lied about voting for Ron Paul, and we caught you, and you're here on camera, and you're a real person, you're saying you're not a Russian bot. Okay, all right.
Check the veracity of the information that you retweet, the people that you're retweeting. Do you know them? Do you have Kremlin contacts?
I have no Kremlin contacts whatsoever. I do not know any Russians. I have no contact with the Russian government or anything to do with them. I've got no contact with spies. I am an ordinary British citizen who happens to do research on what is going on in the current neocon wars, which are being fought in Syria at this very moment. I check out what is happening by credible journalists. Now, there aren't any of those on Sky News, and there aren't any others in the whole of the Western media. The only people that are reporting with a voice of reason or sanity or honesty are Peter Hitchens, who's questioned why the hell would Assad use chemical weapons when he's winning, and Tucker Carlson in the US, who said the same thing. And
okay, Ian, we are running out of time. I just want
Ian,
to
can I quickly ask you, look, firstly, I would say,
one more time. Had to interrupt. He was going to say the former UK ambassador also said the same thing. I believe that was on Sky News, and then he was cut off for an emergency commercial break. This is Sky News. They couldn't let him continue. Once he gets into the truth of the real story, they can't let him talk.
To make it balanced. But do you ever worry that inadvertently you might be part of a Kremlin propaganda machine? Inadvertently?
No. The question is, what does it mean by being pro-Britain or pro-American? Does it mean being pro the interests of 60 million British people? Or does it mean the clique in the UK government, the cabinet, that are doing things for their own personal benefit and their cronies? In the arms companies, BAE Systems. Theresa May's husband runs a large hedge fund or private equity fund, which is the largest shareholder of BAE Systems. Do you think BAE Systems went up because Theresa May started bombing Syria? Yes, they did. She's got a conflict of interest. That's one. So I am speaking for the vast majority of British people. 59.9 million out of 60 million English people or Scots. I'm not speaking for the UK government, who do not work for the British people. And they plainly ignore the wishes of the British people, because hardly anyone in Britain wants Theresa May to bomb Syria. It's less than 25% want Theresa May to start a war with Assad.
Ian, I'm afraid we have run out of time. Thank you very much indeed for coming on and putting your side of that across. Ian, there talking to us via Skype. Thank you.
Boom. Boom. It was pretty good, right? So Doshi showed up. Did I show you that? He is definitely a Russian bot. He put a microchip in me basically to control my thoughts and bring you this show. I'm live right now, believe it or not, recording this on Twitch, twitch.tv/lifttheveil411. I kind of do most of my live shows there now, and you get to see my show prep and go over a lot of videos. If you watch it there, I'm going to go back to Twitch as soon as I end this recording. So you can catch me there, twitch.tv/lifttheveil411. I'm also live on Lift the Veil Live. If you're seeing this on YouTube, it's a good idea to be subscribed to all of my YouTube channels. If you search Lift the Veil, the 3 channels I use should pop up. But I am heavily censored, maybe because I'm picked out as a Russian bot by the U.S. government. And that's why I have to jump around quite a bit. But thanks for everybody new who's been tuning in. If you're newer, please hit subscribe, hit the bell, and then you get notifications. If you want your Russian bot shirt, it's my company. Did I tell you that? It all goes toward this show. Truthclothing.io to get your Russian bot shirt. From me, from Doshi, that is what it is.